Hi everyone, my name is Shelley and today we're here to talk about multilingual learning at home, especially in the lead up to the International Day of Multilingualism, which is coming up this week, March 27th. So I'm joined by two experts in the field, so I'll just ask them to introduce themselves to you quickly.
My name is Avery Udagawa. I'm Native Language Coordinator at ISB, and I support Native language education for students in different divisions.
Okay.
And I'm Marie Gaetgaeow. I'm the grade 4 EAL support teacher.
Great, thank you both for talking to us today. So to start with Avery, can you tell us how many students at ISB are multilingual?
Well, nearly all of them, if you think about it, because for students in kindergarten through grade 12, we offer classes in both English and at least one other language. And we're also living here in Thailand, where the language spoken in the neighborhood is different to the one we use a lot at school. So pretty much all of them. And a majority of ISB's student body are students for whom English is a second language.
Right, very good point. And Marie, can you tell us, why is it such an asset to be multilingual?
Well, there's a lot of research actually in the field of language acquisition, and much of the research that we're seeing is showing that being multilingual is actually really good for the development of your brain. So as you're becoming multilingual, your brain is actually making tremendous connections between what you're learning and how you're learning it. So there's just so much evidence for multilingualism being a real asset in terms of our brain's development and our capability to think and communicate.
Great. Thank you for that. Avery, can you tell us why is the International Day of Multilingualism so unique and important for us to celebrate as a community?
Well, the International Day of Multilingualism is different than other occasions on which we celebrate language. For example, we celebrate International Mother Language Day, which means the same thing as International Native Language or Mother Tongue Day. But the International Day of Multilingualism doesn't concern itself with whether you grew up speaking a language or whether you've just started it today, whether you're really good at your languages or you are kind of a beginner in several. And it doesn't have to do with how great your language use is. It just has to do with the fact that multilingualism is a part of your everyday life. They say just as normal as picking up a cup of coffee. And I think that kind of multilingualism is what's going on during learning and family time in a lot of ISB households right now. And I think that's something to celebrate.
So another really important thing about multilingualism is that multilingualism, I think, is really connected to each person's individual identity and our sense of who we are. Languages are so closely connected to our culture and knowing who we are that I think that celebrating, for example, Multilingualism Day and honoring that in our community is really, really important. I think it's helpful for students and parents and family and staff to be able to connect to really who they are in every way and through every language, especially during these really kind of stressful times.
Thank you. So Avery, now with everyone doing virtual school at home, can you give us some examples of what multilingual learning looks like at home, and also give some tips to parents about what they can be doing to increase that?
Well, multilingual learning at home can happen in all kinds of different ways. And I just find it fascinating and really fun. My own family is bilingual. We use Japanese and English together. And my kids are also learning new languages through school. And we end up discussing a lot of what we're doing through virtual learning using 1 to 2 to 3 of those. So for example, today, my 3rd grader was working on a nonfiction reading and then writing project, and her topic that she chose is sign language. And so she was interested in figuring out how many kinds of sign language there are in the world. She's totally new to sign, but she found out that there are American and Japanese sign languages, and we looked them up. I think we were reading about them in English, but then she found some of the signs for Japanese that were written in both English and Japanese, and she started trying them with her hand. And then we got in touch with a friend of ours in southern Japan who has a daughter who uses Japanese sign language, and we asked her, do you use the Western Japan dialect or the Eastern Japan dialect? And she said, well, we use the Western, but with a little variation for Kyoto. And so we really got jiving on, let's see, English, Japanese, and then two, which we're used to speaking, and then at least two types of sign language that were totally new to us, and trying them out and finding out about them. So that was fun. Another example was from math class for 3rd grade today. They were supposed to make a tally chart of items. And the example that they would use is typically this one. But that provided an opportunity for me to talk with my daughter about how in Japan they would tally a count of 5 with a mark like that, which is also the kanji or ideogram for, it's used in the word correct, tadashi. It's used in the word for New Year, oshogatsu. And that again just led to lots more connections. She understood her math, and then she also knew some more about her family by the time we were done. And I asked her if she wanted to make a chart in the Japanese way as well as the this way. And she said, no, Mom, I'm done now. And I said, okay. Which leads me to, I think, my main tip, which is don't force it. Enjoy it. Don't feel like you have to stop using your home language or stop using English. But if your kid's ready to stop, try again tomorrow.
Right. And so, and essentially what you're doing there is you're bringing in, your child is learning these in English, but you're bringing in one of your home languages at the same time. And so she's really exploring both.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
That's right. And something different happens, of course, with my middle schooler. She has a native Japanese class that she's taking. And sometimes the stuff she's doing, my husband and I have to even challenge ourselves with our Japanese to help her with. And those discussions might be entirely in Japanese to just try and help her drill into an assignment for middle school that's more in depth. It can really look different depending on the age, the stage, the topic.
Okay, yeah. Great. Yes, Marie.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think a tip for parents to remember is a lot of the assignments that are being given, parents can discuss those assignments, talk about the assignments in their home languages with their children. And then when it's time for the child to respond back to their teachers or create something that they would then share back through whatever technology they're using, I think then, of course, one of our expectations is that the teachers would be able to access that and understand it. So one suggestion I have for parents is if students have done the thinking work in their home language, and maybe they've written notes in their home language, or they've done some initial writing or recording in their home language, I don't think that students necessarily have to translate everything into English. I think that students can post that work in their native language with maybe a small little either written text giving just the main points from whatever they've done in their native language, or making a very short video or a short audio clip to just describe. So on this page, it's my brainstorm. I did it all in Japanese, or I did it all in Korean, and here are the main points.
And would that apply to all class areas?
I think it could depend on classroom teachers and what the assignment was. For example, if the assignment is write an essay, right? you're going to have to write your essay in English and turn it in English. But if the assignment was do some research about X, Y, or Z, then the research could be done in your home language. And then you can, as a student, you could send your teacher the main points. Here are the big ideas that I found out about whatever it was that I was researching. So right. I think you have to be a little, kids and teachers also, and parents have to think a little about like, what is the actual assignment? When can the product that I make be multilingual? So you could have your product have your home language and English on the same product, or when does the product have to be only English? The other suggestion I would have is if students are unsure, can I do this in my home language and share it in my home language? They can just send a quick little message to their teacher and ask.
Great. And I'm going to sort of throw another question we didn't have on our list. For those families that are, or for the students that are second language English learners, are there tips that in this time where maybe they're not in the environment of ISB and have a lot of kids around them that are also speaking English and in their classes every day, in terms of maintaining that English language ability and moving forward, are there tips for parents to keep in mind for them too?
Well, I would offer that once we're back in normal school, they will be surrounded by English. When we've calculated it out in the past, English tends to take up at least 75% of ISB students' days, and that leaves only a quarter of the day for work on maintaining and developing other languages. And now is a chance to sort of flip that and get some more exercise with the language that doesn't get practiced as much at school, and then look forward to lots of English again in the environment when school resumes. You know, language is like any skill, and we know from neuroscience that to build a skill, you need repetition, you need to make connections with other things that you know, and sometimes because of all the English input that students get at school, they have fewer chances to practice their languages other than English. And so this is a chance to get in some more reps on those and then look forward to English more of the day when we come back. Would you have something to add there, Marie?
Yeah, I think that a couple of things. In terms of language acquisition, like when we look at, if, for example, the language I want to learn is Japanese, I need to practice 4 different modalities, we call them. I need to practice speaking, I need to practice listening, I need to practice reading, and I need to practice writing. And I would say that virtual school, the bulk of what students are doing right now is the reading and writing. And so there's a lot that students are having to read online. They have to oftentimes read the teacher's lesson online. They have to read maybe slides that teachers have added. Then they have to read maybe research or books or texts online. A lot of the responses to learning that kids are having to do is in written form. So and one thing that I've been a little bit concerned about for some of the EAL students is that speaking modality and making sure that the students are getting enough practice with speaking English. So one option that students can do is to, instead of writing or typing out a response, they could make a quick audio recording of themselves or a very short little video clip as the response.
Thank you. That's helpful advice.
But I agree with Avery as well. This is actually a really, really good opportunity to be able to practice some of those other languages.
Great. Okay, thank you. And I think just drawing to your earlier point in terms of language learning as a practice is just so good for development in our brains. And so sort of whichever language they're focusing on and really putting time into, and maybe the variance of them at one time, is overall going to be very, very beneficial for our students, right?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Go ahead, Marie.
No, I was just going to say, for sure. I mean, there's the learning that's going on, And that learning of concepts and information can happen in any language. So for example, in the or in the 4th grade, we're reading biographies. That's our reading unit. Students can read biographies in their home language. They're going to be practicing the same skills of looking for traits, accomplishments, obstacles, motivations, whether they're reading a biography in English or whether they're reading a biography in Thai or French or Japanese or Korean. So I think it's important for people to remember that the focus should be on like the concepts and things like that. And then the language that we do that in the big picture, the language you do that in is, it's, you know, it can be any language, let's put it that way. And whatever language it is, you're making connections in your brain and you're making your brain stronger.
Okay, great. Well, thank you both. Thank you for your time and for your insights. I'm sure it's going to be interesting and helpful for our parents. And yes, to everyone watching, thank you for giving us your time as well. And happy International Day of Multilingualism.
Yay!
Yay.
Thank you. Bye.